Yay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm okay with consent, right? I think
then you
we don't
better
need to
follow.
torture.
Thank you. You're a kind man.
Forward on
Poor
consent
Doug.
agenda, yep, okay.
Okay.
Is Todd here?
Todd is here. Yeah.
For the next item, Todd's small. Does that mean, is just
Yes,
because he's not talking?
He's
He's not focused? You're still
There he
muted,
goes.
Todd.
Now,
Can you guys hear me?
Sure.
Yep.
It's
Okay.
all yours.
Thanks, Todd.
All right. I do cut in and out, so if I need to repeat something, just please let me know.
Okay.
So the agenda bill number AB 22-134. This is authorizing the award of contract with TMG Services for the ballpark well site on-site chlorination system, the OSEC unit. So this is one of our last sites, source sites. We've already upgraded Victor Falls, Granger Springs, and we did Tacoma Point last year. So this will be one of our last sites. This equipment is outdated. It's past its useful life. This stuff was installed back in 2005 when the treatment plant was built. They say the estimated life is about 7 to 10 years. With this site, we got a few more years out of it just because at Ballpark, as you guys all know, we run that site around 4 months out of the year. So we run that site about 4 months. We typically get about 1,000 gallons a minute.
It's all the air.
As soon as you turn that one on, we all know it's been turned on.
Yeah, see, guys.
My neighbor comes over and goes, "You're
I know.
stealing from me. You're putting charge me by volume, and you're
And
filling
Quinn
up
follows
the
me
air."
and says, "What's going on with the water, Tom?" Other people.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's a good time.
But yeah, this site, really needs to have that upgraded. We're kind of in a pinch if something goes out with those cells. Those cells are really, I don't know if you can replace them. So this system is just pretty much makes the chlorine, takes water, takes electricity, takes salt, and makes chlorine. So the budget amount that we have left in our budget for the renewal program is $149,000. This is going to take about $95,000 of that budget. So that would leave us around $53,000 still left in that budget. Any questions? Or I know I can't do anything about the air. I wish I could.
Yeah, it gives me a reason to talk to my neighbor. So I had a question about the chlorine. I mean, we've had a couple of people speak at the public. There's a
Fluoride.
Yes.
I'm concerned with fluoride.
Fluoride. Yeah,
Fluoride?
fluoride. Yeah.
oh, not the chlorine.
No. Fluorine's kind of,
Fluoride's in Tacoma Point, Tacoma stuff.
yeah.
Water we get.
South Prairie.
All right.
Yeah, South
So and
Prairie.
there's a state law that we're complying with that says we have to. Okay,
For
so never
chlorine.
mind. So yeah, for chlorine.
Yeah. Chlorine kills your.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, I'll have to go back and
Yeah,
check. I thought somebody was complaining about chlorine as well. I know
Oh,
I'm
Dana
sure they-
doesn't like fluoride.
Some people, not
Right.
are very concerned people kind of could. Also get very sick.
Yeah, well, so that's why I was asking. I was trying to understand how do we know are we overachieving? Is that why they're complaining? Or is it a couple of people? Why are they concerned?
we don't put fluoride in the system, do we?
No,
No, we
City
don't.
of Bonney
Just
does
Tacoma
not,
water does.
does not put
It comes to
fluoride
us
in.
that way.
Yeah, Tacoma. I know. So we only time it happens when we turn it on.
Okay.
We run it all
We have to use so much.
yeah.
We don't run it all the time, do
the
we?
We do run it all the time.
Need it for
Well,
supply.
I knew that.
all the
There's
time.
a couple
Not
things that,
everybody.
There's a couple things, chlorine and fluoride, I guess. So with the chlorine, for the most part, we try to inject it around a 0.8 parts per million. That's what we try to hold throughout the distribution system. but it'll vary anywhere from a 0.8 all the way down to a 0.3. Just depends on where you are in the distribution system. Summer, winter, too, as the water gets warmer, it dissipates out a little bit more. When it's a little cooler, it seems to stay in the water a little bit more. So sometimes when you get a chlorine taste and odor, it's more or less there's not much chlorine in the water. It's the opposite is what you would think. So a lot of times you would see it on the dead end. So if we had a customer call us sometimes on a dead end, they would get a strong chlorine taste and odor, and it's usually the case of that chlorine has dissipated out of the water, so we would have to go out there and freshen it up. That would make sense. Fluoride is a little bit different, like you guys were talking about. Fluoride comes from South Prairie, which we get from the Tacoma water.
If I could add in too, Todd, this is a piece of equipment that we already have an OSIC unit there, and we cannot replace the parts currently if it was able to fail. So this is going to help actually replace it and upgrade like we need it to.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question. This is probably before both your times. Ever since I'm in the council, people complained about that well. And then I'm shocked when I look at on here that it's past its recommended lifestyle cycle. Thank you, style. Why would we have not budgeted sooner to replace this on the recommended life cycle instead of waiting until now when it's just, we need to do this. It's in terrible shape. Why don't we have it scheduled?
That's a great question.
Things out like tanks and everything else, especially the water, is so essential.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should have done it 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. And I would, since this is going back to the time when I was superintendent, obviously there's always competing priorities too. This infrastructure renewal program monies that we are using, there's a lot of competition, if you will, to appropriate that money between the different needs as best we can. And certainly we prioritized the installation and replacement of these OSEC units based on greatest need. And certainly a source that contributes water to our system 4 months out of the year versus a Victor Falls or a Tacoma Point, where it's pushing massive quantities of water every day, 365 days a year, has to rank higher for replacement over something like Ballpark. So really, even though, yes, it is something that is beyond its life cycle, it is certainly not necessarily inappropriate or a sign of bad practice that we waited as long as we. If anything, I would say in this case, we're just trying to maximize the dollar that was spent on it. As far as I know, it's due for replacement, but it's not being replaced because it's falling apart and not doing its job. It's just being replaced because as we've kept it maintained, it's getting harder and harder. And now it sounds like impossible to find replacement parts for it. So it's actually a great time to replace it.
I just thought it would have been done sooner, but I understand because we don't use it very often. Is what it is.
Standard stuff.
Yeah.
Consent agenda item, man. Folks, yep, yep. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll move this forward to consent agenda item. Yep. And the next one is for Jack. Hey, where we're going with the chiller.
Chiller. The chiller project.
Didn't public safety kind of cover this one already, or is this
I
just?
thought we
We
approved
did.
it. Well, yeah, that
did.
was at that meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, you approved the use of the ARPA funds, about
Oh, okay.
$175,000 for this. This is the actual contract work that we would be pushing
Yeah.
forward. It is considered a public works contract, so we have to do that. And so what we're doing is, what you see in front of you is the actual procurement, because what we found out is it's going to be 40 weeks to actually get that, so it's about 10 months. So this one is $76,000 just for the procurement of it, and then probably next CDC you'll see the installation, which is another $76,000 about. So that'll be under that 175. But this is again same idea. It was consistent with the building, which is 1989. We had already replaced the boiler. Now we're going to do the chiller part, and this is what it is. We're looking for approval to push forward.
Yeah, I was wondering because they did the one unit or one while ago, something like that, which is heating part.
Yep, exactly right.
So with the current chiller works.
It continues to fail. We've had Mike out there multiple weekends, and it even got to the point where we've had the PD staff having to reset the equipment as it was breaking down. And so it got to the point where it's like, well, you're spending more money to fix it than it is to just replace the thing. So decision was made to replace it.
Well, the ARPA funds being available to us,
Sure.
ideal
That
opportunity.
helps.
Well, let me phrase the question differently. 40, wait, how many months did you say?
40 weeks.
40 weeks.
Yeah, because
40 weeks.
It's pretty standard, though.
The sooner we could actually
No,
order
it's
it.
really, yeah.
We may be able to get it for less. And the idea is we're going to try to hurry up and try to get it before summertime next year because we were told that maybe we can get in about the 20 time frame. So we're trying to push it through.
Just told him to go buy a couple of heat pumps sitting there and take care of the problem. We got a lot of people around this year, these air conditioning companies, put 2 or 3 in your set, line them up. Done.
Your ride along yet?
Yeah.
Are you doing that ride along?
I already did it. We'll talk about
I
tonight.
was going to ask him about that question.
I told him I heard you had a problem. I said, we're taking care of it. It's a good. You're a champ, Watson. Can I count the person we like?
Yeah, right. And this is another moving forward on the consent agenda item. eh?
Yep.
Okay. Anyone have any changes to notes?
Oh, notes are good, Debbie. Good job.
Good. Notes are good.
She's amazing.
Open committee discussion.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Trevor,
Mention?
ask about.
Yeah, well, so I don't really understand what our water. Trying to understand because we get water from multiple places. Under those, are we going to be allowed to get water from like Alma and places? Are we limited?
We have contract with them for a specific amount
they cut us off.
for Tacoma.
Yeah.
Ours are governed by state law of how much you can draw out. And it's like there's an instantaneous.
Yeah, so if I can really quick, water rights is a pretty complex field, especially here in Washington. Not easy. But for a municipality like ours, where we get our water from spring sources, well sources, and then from another purveyor, all of those are covered by a certain water right. For wells and for springs, these are water rights. They're considered senior water rights that were granted to our city way back prior to and during incorporation and so on over the years as we've acquired additional water sources. Our agreement with TPU is what defines what we can get from them, which recently was expanded from 2 mg to 4 mg, addition of some pumps. But the amount of water that we can use from our sources, that would be Tacoma Point, Ballpark, Granger, Victor Falls, are all defined by the water right that was granted to us by the state. So it's so many acre feet per year. And then Dan's right. Then we start going down the path of source perfection, which has to do with 2 different things. It's your QI and your QA, your annual flow from the site and your instantaneous flow. Instantaneous flow is really easy to get. You set the pumps on at their max volume and you hit that, whatever number it is that's set in your water right. Annual flow is a lot harder to get. And in fact, with Tacoma Point, we still have never perfected that water right because we're limited hydraulically in how much water we can push out of there. So long story short, water rights are what define what we can take out of the ground.
That's the problem we're having with water from Flume. It was access off the edge there someplace. We have right to get some water up there.
So we have
We
2
talked about
million
this before.
gallons per day of regional reserved water as part of what used to be called the 4 Cities Agreement and then moving forward. And it was early 2021 when I brought our H2's water study through to evaluate different options for continued supply. All of those were very expensive to pursue, but we have until 2030 to put that 2 MGD to use if we want to use it, but it will be a significant investment. I think at this point, what you're probably better considering is at some point here engaging in talks with TPU in order to purchase additional water from them if we're going to need more. But currently our supply is enough to get us at least through 2040, I believe.
We still have the ability to.
We could. You're talking about the regional reserve water? Yeah, we've got until 2030 to try and put something together to actually use that.
The way the environment's changing and amount of heat, we're going to have more heat again next year like this year. So it's not near as good. They're talking about it anyway. lots of snow rain this winter and real
Could
warm
have another
summer.
wet spring.
You could.
Who knows? So that's,
Yeah. I think there's a combination of a lot of things that play into this.
why the environment's changing so much.
Yeah, and certainly, there is something to be said for additional education and discussion with our customers about conservation tactics. And I'm not just talking about tiered rates and trying to charge more, but actual behavioral changes to the way we think of our water. But that's hard to do.
Yeah, we've had in the past, we used to get monthly updates in the water.
Mhm.
And we haven't had that for a couple of years now. That was very
We should have
interesting this year. But that one gentleman who retired,
Dave,
yeah, he's really good and he's wonderful and kept us informed what was going. Nice to see you talking how much water our citizens are using. Are we using more than last year? I see a lot of dry lawns.
Mhm.
Yeah, we could certainly do that. Actually, in the CDC meetings, if you like, I can kind of bring
Be
updates on
informed of
that.
uses before.
No, I have not.
Yeah, so it would be informative. I
Yeah.
didn't know how much we're using and what the flow was before I started seeing them.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. We have been using a lot more, especially from Tacoma, because it has been getting hotter. Even
That's expensive.
this last go around, and usually what happens is in the summertime we need more supply, but we're also required to take a certain amount from Tacoma anyway too. We have about like 190,000 in the budget a year for Tacoma water, but yeah, it's actually gets a little bit more than normal just because of the heat. But yeah, we can certainly do that.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Actually, it's probably some more things to think about.
Well, yeah, it's just I'm trying to, our forecast population growth, right, and going forward. And wasn't there a clause where you talking about it? We have to find if we find an additional well source, we can put more water out.
In the right area, yeah.
The option.
Yeah, we have the option. The White River Basin, which we're in, is technically a closed basin to any additional water withdrawal, except for the rights that were secured by the mayor and council back in 2010, 2012 for that additional 2 million gallons a day of regional reserve.
Yeah, but we don't know where to get it.
We don't know. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the challenge.
Tried it once.
The preferred
Yeah.
alternative for IH2's analysis
Right.
was surface water withdrawal out of the White River. But even at that was $7 million in 2021 dollars, and it's not going to ever be that cheap again.
Now to put the infrastructure in place and then treat it before we do this.
Yeah.
We got you, Jack. Take care of those things. Find them ahead.
Right in my head.
Get the money.
Cheap. Just
It's
money.
the surface water.
Cheap.
Although I wouldn't say you'd want to pull the water out of Lake Taps. There's a lot of septic systems. But you can treat it.
If it ever goes north to those cities, they're in big trouble.
Oh yeah.
In the boats and all that kind of stuff.
Well, can we pull water out of Lake Taps, sell it to Tacoma, take the money we make and buy some clean water?
That would essentially be water to ourselves. And, no, I don't think that's going to work.
I just want to try to understand it better because I realized two neighbors were asking me about it. And one of the things they were like, we get our water out of taps. I'm like, no. And then
It's not a.
Sometime if you'd like, I mean, water rights specifically are something I've spent a lot of time working with. When I was public works director in Yelm, I was part of the team that was working on the Foster v. Yelm decision, which, thank you. Every time I hear the word Foster, I kind of convulse a little bit. But certainly, if you think it's appropriate, I'd be happy. Jack and I can come back and give a presentation to the council on whatever you'd like to know about water rights and our infrastructure and options.
What I really want to know is why aren't we watering the lawn at Allen York?
Is it looking brown? No, I'm just joking.
I have another question for you.
Is there somebody decided there wasn't?
Actually, I don't know. I'd have to look into it for you. I don't know. Yeah,
Don't you ever go down?
I will say that only having one parks employee, it makes it difficult to get around to everything. sometimes level of service has to decline.
Does
when
he
you
have
don't
a
the
sprinkler with a
staff.
garden hose or something? Doesn't you just turn on the valve?
Well, 'cause
I'll let you
We'll
talk to
look
him and
into it.
see if
We'll
his
look
job
into
is
it
that
more
simple
further.
or not.
I
look
saw him
into
this
it.
week. I'll see him
That's a better question for you to ask.
Anyway, he's a good guy.
because the all along the lake side, somebody obviously made the choice that they didn't want to water over
Oh, yeah,
I'll look into that.
I have another question I asked Dan
Whiners.
about. He didn't have the answer. So I'm going to ask you guys.
there.
Lake Bonney.
Yes.
I'm told the inlet, I have no idea where the inlet is, part of the upper part of the lake, is in bad condition. This person who lives in the lake discussed it with Dan Swatman a few years ago, and he resolved it. So just talk to Dan, Tom, but it's really bad there. You know where, I know how it goes out. I've been watching it.
Yeah.
Do you know where is there an inlet or just seepage out of the ground? I've walked back
that
those
rubber
trees before.
plug that's right in the
That's
center.
right. Yeah, there's a long chain. That you can,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, honestly, I've never had to deal with that before, so
Yes.
we can look into it
Yeah.
for
She
you.
tells
yeah,
us it's
definitely.
really bad, and she's seen it before. I don't know what she means really bad.
Yeah,
And I know who she is. You need me to reach out to her and stuff. But
yeah. Why don't we take a stab at finding out
Yeah.
a little bit more information? We can come back at it the next
yeah, I think
CDC
about
or
10
one
years
after.
ago she talked to Swatman about it because, well, Dan,
Is the city responsible?
it's a state, and I told her it's a state.
Yeah,
lake.
it's a state
It's
lake.
a state.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm.
Let's talk it.
That inlet
if-
may not be our responsibility.
And then that would be for you to contact the state for us in return.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we can do.
Yeah, let me know next time. Do that. Oh, yeah, what's next tonight? God, check this out.
Good
Okay,
question.
that's all I got.
That's it. Okay, we're done.
Thank you.
Right.
Appreciate it.